Hi, Lucas, and welcome to Food 101. Food, people. Let's talk about food. And today I have my special guest. He is a professional mattresses tester, 10 years testing, and 400 plus mattresses tested. None other than Mr. Derek Hales.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Derek on Food 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure. My name is Derek Hales. I'm a professional mattress tester. Been testing mattresses since 2014. To date, I've tested nearly 500 mattresses to date. My team and I at NapLab work to do objective and data-driven testing on mattresses to help our readers make informed purchasing decisions about mattresses.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your favorite food to the world. Being a professional mattresses tester, let's talk about the other side of Mr. Derek. Tell us, what are your favorite food that you want to talk about?
I think my sort of all-time favorite food, my go-to sort of celebration food, is just a really nice grilled at home steak dinner.
Yes.
I love New York strip, love Kansas City strip, love filet, love sirloin. And I just love the sort of the experience of and the sort of journey of perfecting the steak. There are so many different sort of aspects that go into making a really well seared, well grilled steak that's juicy and delicious, and really just try to get as much flavor as possible out of the meal.
Indeed. So beyond a good sear, what are the non-negotiable, almost ritualistic steps you take to prepare what you consider a perfect steak?
So for me, it's so much of cooking the steak is just the preparation. So the preparation really begins by getting it out about an hour or so before we're ready to grill. I'm a big believer in sort of just letting the steak rise to sort of room temperature. That way, it's not super cold coming out from the fridge. Um, it being at room temperature, at least in my experience, seems to cook significantly better, and then the final taste is much better. So, I always take those steaks out about an hour beforehand. We will do a little bit of olive oil on those, and then gently massage in our seasonings. My wife and I love a Chicago style seasoning, so that's sort of where it begins. And then once we've got that hour, the seasonings are in there, a little bit more olive oil in the pan, and get a sort of medium hot sear for about 2 minutes on one side, about 90 seconds on the other side. And then we go into the oven anywhere from, 8 to 20 minutes, depending on how thick a steak we got. And that really is it.
Mr. Derek, if you compare a perfect steak to a perfect mattresses, where you can compare?
Yeah, no, the perfect steak for me is, the perfect seasoning ratio. We keep all those seasonings on the steak. A really good sear creates a nice crust on that steak. And then, of course, cook the appropriate temperature. For me, I'm aiming for about 140 degrees. Mattresses, I don't know if they're exactly comparable, but, we have, really, really foundational things that we look for in a mattress that we want to see. And, we want just like we want the top of that steak to be nice, seasoned, a nice crust. We want the top of the mattress to be a thick, robust, high quality comfort layer. That's going to create better pressure relief. It's going to last longer. It's going to create better support for sleepers. So definitely the topmost layer of the mattress, just like the topmost layer of the steak, is important. But we also shouldn't forget about the interior of the mattress. The supportive foundation, the pocketed coil unit, if there's support foam, those layers, really are not going to be able to create the level of support that we need, the durability that we need, unless they're at the same quality level of the comfort material. So whether it is, the top of a steak or a mattress, the middle or the bottom, each of those layers is important to delivering the total experience.
Mr. Derek, the sear is everything. What is your philosophy on the heat source? Are you a charcoal purist, a cast iron searist, or something else?
I'm certainly not a purist. I've cooked on a number of different cooktops over the years, from grills to induction ovens to gas electric. Definitely, I'm not a fan of electric burners. The cooking temperature is just too inconsistent; doesn't get hot fast enough. I think for me, my favorite ends up being induction. It is the fastest, or at least as fast as gas. It's cleaner, and the heat is incredibly even, especially when you're cooking on a high performance pan. So for my money, I really like the induction cooktop. I like to be able to go from pan into oven. Just creates just a lot more control, and I can get the exact temperature, the exact sear that I want.
Let's talk about the flip. Do you describe to the one flip only method, or are you a frequent flipper? What do you have found works best for you for perfect crust?
The I'm sorry, let's talk about the flea. I'm not sure I understand
Flip.
that one.
How many times you flip your steak?
Oh, flips. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. One time for me. So we get the pan nice and hot. A little bit of olive oil goes on. 90 seconds to 2 minutes for side one. Flip, and then we got another 60 seconds to 90 seconds for side two. I just do one on each side. Going back and forth, I found, often just cooks the steak too much. So I don't want to get that interior cooking. I just want a really nice, consistent crust on that steak. I want the seasonings to stick on the exterior, not end up on my pan. And
Yes.
so I think to that end, the one flip works best for me.
Juicy and delicious for sure. And how do you navigate the great seasoning debate? Aggressively salt hours before, or right before, or after cooking?
So I've tried kind of all three of these versions. What I've sort of landed on over the years is I like to season it sort of as the steak comes out of the refrigerator. So we do our olive oil, we do the seasonings, massage those in, and then we leave that for about an hour. I didn't find there was much of a difference between that and right before, at least not for me. Seasoning after, I feel like this doesn't work as well. Again, for the types of steaks that my wife and I like to cook, I think when it goes on after those seasonings aren't been cooked, they're not sort of cemented as a crust on the steak. So I really want to create a nice crust. And to get that, you have to massage those seasonings in. And the best time to do that is either right before we start cooking or right after it comes out of the refrigerator.
So, Mr. Derek, let's talk about this North Carolina barbecue and the family legacy. This sauce is a family heirloom. Beyond the ingredients, what does the recipe represent to you and your family story?
So much of my dad's family is based in North Carolina. Our roots are kind of go there, and in North Carolina style barbecue is huge. So my family has got sort of our secret sort of North Carolina recipe, which is a vinegar based with sugar and some other seasonings. And for me, it's just it's represents, or rather, I have sort of nostalgic memories for kind of eating this food growing up, or eating it at family cookouts and family reunions. So there's a lot of sort of good memories associated with the food, which I definitely think enhances sort of the experience of eating it years and decades later.
Mr. Derek, vinegar based sauce is bold choice compared to a sweet tomato based sauce. What do you love about this unique character that makes you essential?
Yeah. Well, it's this dichotomy between the ingredients. The vinegar has got such a sharp bite to it, but then you still have, ketchup and other seasonings that are sort of tuning it down a little bit. So it really is this like melody of flavors that in some ways contrast each other, but when they come together, they work together. They work really well together, especially when you're slow cooking that into a pork or even on chicken. I've had it on a number of different meats. It seems to work well kind of everywhere you put it, but it's just that dichotomy between a little bit of sweet, a little bit of spicy, a little bit of bite that really works well.
Can you describe the memory first learning this recipe from your dad? Was it a written down, or was it a watch to learn kind of process?
So for a long time, my dad just had it from memory. He hadn't ever actually written it down. So in the earliest days, I'd be watching him on the grill, basting chicken with it, or doing a pork in a slow cooker, a pork tenderloin. Eventually, I did get my dad to actually write the recipe down. So I didn't really start cooking until I was kind of in high school, and so by then I asked him if he could write it down, and then I was able to take that with me and have that recipe as I started having cooking on my own in college.
As the current keeper of the recipe, have you felt empowered to put your own slight spin on it? Or it's treated as a sacred, secret to the family?
Yeah, most recipes I do like to work and make my own, but this is one of the very few that I have left alone. I've not reworked it, I've not retooled it, I've left it exactly as my dad gave it to me. Um, and it's just, I don't know, there's such a strong nostalgia with this recipe that it's one I have a hard time sort of feeling good about reworking. It's just, it works, and I love the flavor. My family loves the flavor now, and so it's a tough one to want to mess with.
Definitely, for sure. And what is the best cut meat to introduce someone to the magic of this specific family sauce and why?
I think the best cut is always just a pork tenderloin. Pork tenderloin, either done slow on the grill or a smoker. You can do the oven. We like it in the slow cooker. However you like to cook it, cook it nice and slow in a bath or with really frequent bastings of the sauce. Really allows that sauce to penetrate into those flavors. And then most importantly, when you do serve that up, you want to let that cool and then hand pull that. The pork tenderloin does so much better when it's hand pulled compared to when it's chopped or cut.
So, Mr. Derek, on the Harlem cheesecake, let's talk about your favorite dessert. Your step
Yes.
grandmother was clearly an innovator. What was her most unique or surprising flavor variation on Did It Work?
So my grandma is really the consummate cheesecake master. Every holiday she would have multiple cheesecakes for us to try. And I think her maybe most innovative. I'm not sure if I call it innovative, but delicious. Just like a key lime cheesecake. That's something where I had numerous times before. Sort of key lime pie, which is great by itself, but I have never had a key lime cheesecake, and it's just amazing. And for kind of the same reason that I like the North Carolina barbecue, that key lime has got a little bit of sour, a little bit of bite, but then you have this sweetness with the sugar, with the creaminess, with the cream topping. It just works together beautifully.
Beautifully and for sure delicious. In perfect in perfecting a cheesecake, the texture is paramount. What is the key to achieving her signature texture? Was it a specific mixing technique, ingredients temperature, or baking method?
I think there's two big things. So the first is mixing. I think mixing technique can vary. I mean, whether you're using a hand mixer, you're using an electric stand mixer, either are fine options. I've done both. The big thing is to not over mix. There is a sort of consistency that is sort of optimal for pouring in, and that's going to also cook well. It's really hard to describe what that consistency is. It's one of those things I just sort of learned by watching her. And then for myself, as I started cooking these on my own, I would just get kind of a sense and looking at it, watching it sort of falling off of the mixer, that okay, this is done. So there's sort of that ideal consistency, not too thin, but not too thick. But you especially don't want to over mix. The last big thing is just the cooking time. You want to make sure that temperature comes down slowly. If you bake a cheesecake, you pull it out of the oven and leave it on the counter or go into the fridge, it's very likely going to crack, going to create consistency issues with the texture. Whereas if we have that cheesecake coming down slower temperature, and then it goes to the counter and it sits there for an hour or two, and then it finally goes to the refrigerator once it's reached room temperature, that's going to get a much better consistency. We're not going to have cracks in the middle. It's not going to break apart in the middle. So that's a really important piece as well.
Definitely something good, Mr. Derek. And what's the biggest disaster or learning experience you have had while making one of the cheesecakes? And what did teach you?
The biggest disaster. I think the biggest disaster I ever had was I had my cheesecake, the filling. I had the crust made. It was in the pan. I had my cheesecake pan. I had poured it in, and I was moving it to the oven. But there's these little metal latches on the side of most cheesecake pans that sort of latch the side to the base. I had forgotten to latch those, so I picked up the pan. The top portion slid off, and then I had just cheesecake, just liquefied, pouring out of the sides, and it was basically a complete game over for that cheesecake.
Did you learn from that mistake, Mr. Derek?
Yeah, a little bit of preparation goes a long way. So now I double, triple check my latches once the crust is in place.
Definitely. So these cheesecakes are tied to special occasions. Is there one holiday or event where it's absolutely must be on the table, and what makes the occasion so special?
Definitely. Thanksgiving was one where we absolutely always had a cheesecake recipe. And so my grandma always made sure we had, usually two, but at least one cheesecake for every Thanksgiving. And so it's definitely something that's been important to me. So Thanksgiving is an absolute must for cheesecake.
Definitely. It's a must for Thanksgiving, people. As the interior of these recipes, what responsibility do you feel in preserving them exactly they were written versus experimenting with your own ideas?
Yeah, so this is one where I've done a little of both. The recipes I feel again a certain sense of nostalgia and respect. They're my grandma's recipes, or ones that she had gotten and then sort of retooled a bit and made her own over the years. And so many of them I've left alone, in part out of respect for the recipe, and part because I feel like baking is more of a science, and there's just less room for interpretation. And anytime you begin to interpret, especially when you really don't understand what these ingredients are doing, this is more likely for things to go on. But I have retooled a few of them, and they're really simple things. For example, I like a crust that goes up a little bit higher on the walls of cheesecake. I want that all the way up to the top if I can get it there. And to get that, you need more graham cracker, you need more Oreo, you need more butter, and so it's just sort of increasing the quantity of ingredients. But with respect to most of the fillings and toppings, I've generally kind of left those alone. So the only really area that I'll mess with will be just the crust. And it's usually just aimed at just increasing the volume of material for that crust so we can get that higher up on the pan.
Higher on the pan. So before we continue to talk about your favorite food, Mr. Derek, what are your short-term and long-term goals in your business?
So, our short term goal is always just about, iterative improvement. Day by day, we're looking for things to do better, do more efficiently, create better content, better reviews, make the reviews and videos easier to digest, easier to understand. So, that is sort of a daily goal for myself and my team that we're always looking at. More long term, we're looking at, really, improving the reviews in more significant ways, to like taking on more meaningful, objective and data driven tests, especially around durability testing. That's something we're currently working to get sort of this big industrial machine. It's called a rollator. It's essentially a massive sort of steel arm that goes back and forth across the mattress, and it's pushing this 240-pound, essentially giant wooden rolling pin. That allows us to do really cool durability testing and provide just again a level of objective data that's just no one else has. So long term, we're looking for that as a big way to improve our reviews. And then beyond that, just looking for the different things that we could, add additional content. We want to look at testing frames and foundations, adjustables, pillows, sheets, and other accessories. So anything that we can do to help our readers and our viewers just make more informed decisions and be able to find the type of testing content and reviews that they're looking for.
Definitely. And if your short-term and long-term goals, what are your vision and mission for this company?
The mission is really simple. We want to create objective and data driven views to help just reduce the complexity in making a mattress purchase. This is an industry that has really put a lot of unnecessary difficulty in understanding what's in the mattress. Why is this one better? Why is this one more expensive? What do these materials do? And we just try to take that mystique out. We want to help our readers be able to look at product A, look at product B, understand exactly what's in them, how they compare, why one is more expensive, and which one's going to be best for them.
Well, good luck to your vision and mission as well as your goals, Mr. Derek, and looking forward for more success. All three of these foods are your celebration staples. What is it about the process of making them, the time, the technique, the tradition that makes the act of cooking itself a celebration for you?
I think so much of it is just the memory. I have memories of cooking with my mom, cooking with my dad, my stepdad, my grandma, my sisters, and now I'm cooking with my kids and my wife and my friends. And so that's always just been a fun part. The process of being together in the kitchen, making something incredible out of really simple ingredients. That is something that's just been lifelong memories for me.
Lifelong memory for sure. If you had to choose only one of these three culinary legacies to pass on the next generation, which would it be and why?
It'll probably have to be the barbecue sauce. I think that one is sort of the closest to my heart. Being it's sort of my dad's family recipe. Is something that sort of all of the Haleses on that side of the family have been cooking for decades and decades. So that one feels like the one recipe. If I had to pick one that I really would want my kids to be able to pass on.
Well, thank you for that barbecue sauce, Mr. Derek. And each of these requires patience and precision. Which of these cooking process do you find the most meditative or satisfying?
I think the cheesecake. It is the most complex in terms of techniques, in terms of ingredients. There's a lot going on there. Baking really is a science, and it requires absolute precision and adherence to the directions. And so to sort of make a cheesecake successfully, I really have to be focused, and there's a certain level of meditativeness in that process.
How has understanding the why behind the techniques for these dishes changed how you approach all other cooking?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the things where the longer you cook, especially when you're cooking the same sort of things again and again, you really begin to understand why something is the way it is. Usually, when I don't do it the exact way, and then I experience, oh, okay, well that didn't turn out right. My crust cracked, or the crust was too low, or the middle isn't cooked all the way through, and I can then immediately see the result from some action that I took, and that may be an action of ignorance, or maybe I was trying something different. But definitely, it's one of those things where I think as you experience it, you then can take what you have learned, making cheesecakes and some of those things, and I will experience baking other foods. It doesn't always apply to every different thing I'm cooking, and things that I cook versus things I bake. There's definitely some various variation there as well. But certainly, there are, I think, sort of different techniques that sort of transfer from recipe to recipe, and I can see the same sort of advantages to doing a particular way, or drawbacks, and depending on exactly what I'm cooking.
Mr. Derek, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my Abstract Essay is already in fifth season, Abstract Poetry in second season, and my Book 101 review in fifth season too, Comedy 101 in second season, and my Food 101 in fifth season as well, Geography 101 in fourth season, and my Baby Podcast Law 101, and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in a third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Derek, finally, if you were to prepare an ultimate celebration meal featuring all these three steak, North Carolina barbecue chicken or pork, and cheesecake, what would be the menu look like and how would you navigate serving them?
If I was going to have something where I was cooking all the, it would definitely be probably a 4th of July type party, type barbecue, where we're doing steaks, we're doing barbecue, we're doing some other meats, some bratwurst, some hot dogs. We'd have kind of all the sides you would expect for an event like that. And of course, big dessert finish with a couple of cheesecakes as well.
Yes, Master Derek Hales. Thank you so much for sharing your favorite food to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, if you're in the market for a new mattress, be able to visit us over at naplab.com, naplab.com. There we have our reviews, comparisons, best of guides, and a whole lot more. I also have our mattress finder quiz there. Answer a few questions about your needs, preferences, and budget. That goes straight to me. I send you back a recommendation within 24 hours. Or if you just want to say hi, I've got a contact form. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, please be able to reach out there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Derek Hales because if you support him, for sure you will have a good night's sleep. So, Mr. Derek, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an absolute pleasure.
More to come, people. See you soon.